Hello, and thank you for coming today to Miss Benham's Blended Classroom. I am so excited to have you here today. Today's theme is why we love math. And I'm just excited when one of my students said to me, math came naturally to him. And everyone should say that. Math comes naturally to me. I love math. And so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about mathematics. The abacus is a mathematical calculating tool dating way back to Eastern Han Dynasty in 206 BCE. That's before the Common Era. And the abacus was used by merchants and clerks in China, Japan, Africa, India, as well as by the Greeks. The Aztecs built the pyramids of St. Lucia in Acatlan, and they also used mathematics in their calculations of building these perfect architectural structures. What more can I say? Well, I can tell you about Harriet Tubman, who led enslaved people to freedom using mathematical concepts. Even though they may not have known that's what they were doing, they were calculating the stars and the constellations that made these all come together in perfect harmony. And so they did know what they were doing because she brought hundreds of enslaved people to freedom. And then you have the blue nomads of Africa who travel annually to Paris to sell their silver and gold and other precious jewels. And that's how they make their living. But how do they get there? If you're just traveling as nomads on camels and things, well, you use mathematics to come up with the ideas of how you calculate the stars in the sky. Well, let's also look at Leif Erikson and the Vikings. They sailed possibly all the way to Canada. They're credited with being the first Europeans who came to North America. And they probably used some type of mathematical calculating devices and compasses and looking at the stars in the skies. But math was in the midst of it all. And the same thing for Benjamin Banneker, who was self-educated as an astronomer, and he was watching the stars and doing his calculations, and he was a self-made mathematician and selected by President George Washington to map out the new capital area. And then, speaking of our nation, we can't forget our Native Americans. Okay? Because the Native Americans were living here centuries before anyone else came here from Europe or Spain and all the other places that people have come to the Americas. But the Native Americans were here already. So we don't want to forget that they, when you think about the Trail of Tears, that was not a fun walk. But it was through mathematics that they knew how to guide and go to the places they had to go to. Even though it was a hardship, even though it was a horrible thing that happened, they were able to survive. And how did they do that? They knew how to navigate using the stars in the skies and mathematically computating exactly how to get to where they needed to go. And then let's talk about Sacagawea. She was a Shoshone Indian who guided and acted as the interpreter for Lewis and Clark on their expedition. We don't want to forget her. And then lastly, I don't want to leave out sports. As you may not think of sports as mathematics, but you have to calculate every single move in sports. They seem like it's right off of the top of their head. Well, in soccer it is. They kick that ball right off their head. But you have to calculate your kicking of the ball and the running down the field, and then you have to calculate what your opponent is doing, and then you have to watch everything that's going on in the field. Same way with football. You need to call those plays. You have to calculate and estimate not only what you're going to do, but what your opponent's going to do. And so you're calling all these plays. Same thing in basketball. You have a lot of calculations involved in basketball. Not only that, you even have to calculate, I will make a foul so I can make a basket. Might not make sense, but it makes sense when you're in the last couple of minutes of the game. And then let's look at baseball. Talk about calculations. You have to calculate the strikes and the balls and the ERA and all the different pitchers' averages and the hitters' averages. That's how they make their money. And guess what? When you graduate from high school, that's how you can make money too, through mathematics. That's a very high growing field, and it has a natural relationship with computers and technology. And so I would say to you, Benny, you're correct. Mathematics comes naturally to everyone. I'm Miss Benham. Thank you for visiting.